All right.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
This is Isabel Saldivar. And
Rogelia Saldivar.
all right. And so where were you born?
I was born in Doctor González, Nuevo León, Mexico.
And did you grow up in the same city? Or like, how old were you until you moved?
I was about 6 years old when we moved to the big city, which was Monterrey, Nuevo León.
Okay. How many siblings did you have?
I had 4 and myself making it 5.
And so were they older, younger? What were their names?
I was the middle child, so it was 2 brothers older than me, and then another brother, me, and then a brother and a sister.
All right. So tell me a little bit about your childhood.
My childhood, just like any child, was happy. Didn't have too much, but what we had, we enjoyed. We had a lot of love from the parents. And we grew up thinking that that was just life, you know. We didn't expect anything better because we were happy for what we had.
That's a really good way to look at childhood.
Mhm.
So like at what age, like when you were growing up, did you realize that maybe you were less fortunate or that you maybe didn't have as much as other kids?
Well, being that I didn't have much to begin with, whenever we had more, I mean, didn't make any difference to me as long as the family was together. Began feeling bad after my father and my mother got divorced. And so I felt like my family was separating. I didn't understand at that time why, but as I grew older, I could understand. But that didn't make me any happier than what I was.
So did you attend school in Mexico?
I attended school until I was 10 years old, and I was taken out of school because my mother had to work and I had to stay home. So I went to the 3rd grade in Mexico.
And you had to stay home. Were you working with other kids or just doing housework?
No,
or?
just being home, cleaning the house
Mhm.
while my mother worked.
What do you remember about your time at school? Like, what was it like? Relations with other students and teachers? Did you like to learn?
It was, I love to learn. The thing about it is in Mexico, the schools at that time were kind of harsh. You did something wrong, they would put you on your knees and away from the wall to make sure that you knew it was punishment. So, you know, that was it. That's all I remember. I don't remember anything. Remember learning how to write and read, which was good. And that's all I remember.
So did you only go to 3rd grade or did you have any
Just-
schooling after?
Well, afterwards, I was 15 years old when we came to the United States. I went to school half a day because the other half day I had to work. I learned how to write and read, how to speak the language. I was very happy because I have always loved school. So that's how my life began in a new, what do you say, a new country.
So what was your highest level of education, or what were the highest levels of education of other people in your family?
Okay, I finished up to the 6th grade, got out of school, and as I turned 16, I got married. Then I was about 38, 39. I went to school, got my GED. Was very proud of it. Worked hard for it, and I learned the skills of typing and all that. Got a job for about 8 months. One of my kids got lost, so I decided this is not worth it, you know, losing one of my kids, so I quit.
So, but initially when you did get your GED, what inspired you to start that? Whenever I know you already had kids at the time.
Yeah, I wanted to learn something just in case something happened in my marriage, which thank God it didn't. And I wanted to have something to fall on, if something happened.
Yeah. So what are some challenges you experienced related to education? Like, did you have any trouble when you were learning to read or write or going back for your GED?
I had a really good person teaching us. One of the times that got a little bit too hard for me, I wanted to quit. Well, it was her persistent that you shouldn't quit. You should go ahead and finish. And I did. And I'm very grateful to her. The name of the program was, what was it? Right now, I don't remember, but it was for the GED and the learning how to type on the typewriter.
Mm-hmm. So do you remember what year that was, or like what?
1978.
So you had 5 kids?
Yes. Yes. Well, no, I had 7.
7?
Yes.
Yeah.
I had 7 by the time I finished the school and all that. I had a baby that my husband would take in the middle of the day so I could feed him. He was breastfeeding. He was a 1.5 years old. It was very challenging, but it was worth it. Yes.
So going back to your family growing up, what did your parents do for a living?
Okay, my father was a butcher. He would do it at home. He would kill animals, and the meat was sold already by the time he did it, the butchering of the animals. And so my mother was a homemaker. Also made candies, Mexican candies, and that's how they made the living.
So did your mother being into like making candies and cooking, did that inspire you to bake later on in your life and be a cook?
No, I was kind of small. All I knew is that it was hard work. And I got kind of upset with my father because he would bring the animals, and you would, being a child, you get attached to the animals. Yeah. And that was the only thing that I got upset,
So do you have any siblings that are still living or that still are actively in the workforce?
Yes, I have 3 brothers and a sister. And my second marriage of my mother, I have 2 sisters. Our brother, which was on the second marriage, the first one, he died of cancer. He died of 36 years old, was pretty young. And on my side of the family, my father and my mother, my youngest of my brothers died of cancer. That was hurting pretty bad, when he passed. It was kind of quick. So I guess cancer is one of the worst sickness that we have right now.
So going off of sickness, I'm going to go into some questions about COVID. So how has the pandemic affected you?
It affected me with my oldest brother and his wife getting sick, getting into the hospital, both of them being doctors. They stayed in the hospital for about 1.5 months. He came out of it, but she didn't. She passed. Before he was released from the hospital, he didn't know that his wife had died. So that was pretty bad.
So losing a family member has been the most challenging part of
Yes.
COVID then?
Yes.
But you've been quite lucky to be pretty healthy from COVID.
Yeah, the thing about that, it teaches you not to be so free with not getting your shots. My husband and myself got the 2 shots, and then we got the booster shot because of being afraid of having the same results. So in a way, it did open your eyes, to be a little bit more careful with your health.
No, I definitely agree. It, you realize how much of the world is unnecessarily like close in contact and how unhealthy we used to be.
Right.
So how would you say you dealt with the challenges of losing a family member during the pandemic?
It made you learn that you cannot be too careful, and that whatever they ask for you to do it, because it's for your own good.
Yeah.
And having more family in our side, you know, and not being able to see each other, it does hurt, but it would be hurting more if you were to see them sick and suffering from this disease.
So what surprised you the most about how other people are responding to the pandemic, or how they responded differently from you?
Around us, I see that everybody's taking care of themselves as much as they can. So that, to me, being at the age I am, and my husband, we have to be extra careful. We're not young. My husband is 84 years old and I'm 78 years old. So we have to take care of ourselves. And most of all, putting our faith in God to keep us safe.
Yeah, you've told me before that, you know, every day you wake up and it's always God's willing.
Yes.
Is what you have to remember, no matter how many plans you make or whatever you do.
Yeah,
that's what
it has
comes
to
down
be his will, most of all.
So ending from that, so religion, as long as I've known you, religion has been a huge part of your life. So when did you find that inspiration? Were you raised being Catholic, being religious, or?
I did not follow the religion because I had a neighbor that when I used to take my kids to church, I would see him in front helping the priest, the father in the church. And when he was outside, if it was my neighbor, he was worse than the devil. So I said to myself, if I go to church, I'm going to be fighting inside my soul and cussing at him and all that. And so I decided, no more. It's not for me. So I stay home, but I remember God is always everywhere. So that's what I did. Always put my faith in God.
And then I know now you're more devout. You read the Bible often. You raised your children in, you know, believing in God, believing in Jesus. So when was that switch, after you saw like how the Catholic Church treated things, but still to devote yourself to Christ?
When my kids were little, because I thought to myself, they have to know that God is first of all in their life. It has to be in their lives. Because if you do not have a certain way of thinking and a certain way of telling your kids about God, nothing is worth, you know.
There's no direction,
No,
really. Yeah.
No, you get lost very easily, especially nowadays.
I agree. So this is going back into, you know, identity. Obviously, religion's a big part of that, but its connection with language. So what language did your parents speak when you were growing up?
Spanish.
100% Spanish. So when did you start learning English?
When we came to the United States and I went to school, I had a wonderful teacher. At that time, the teachers will not let you speak your language. And I told them, I don't know any other way. They would take me to the office and say, well, you have to quit speaking in Spanish. You have to learn how to read in English. But I'm trying. That's the reason I'm here at school. So that's how it began. But at the time, you don't understand why they're telling you that. Later on in life, you understand they're doing it for your own good.
The full immersion into the English language is the fastest way to teach a child.
And because they were like that, being at that time, you had to speak the language. That was the rules. They did good because I learned how to write, how to read, and how to speak. My kids, I didn't teach them Spanish, which I regret very, very bad today, because I said, when they go to school, I don't want them to have the same problems I did when I was going. So their language was put aside. And up to this day, they blame me. Why didn't you speak to me in Spanish? I said, I did. And you told me you don't live in Mexico. You have to speak English. So.
Yeah, it's interesting to see the cultural shift of, you know, you coming from Mexico to the United States, being forced to learn English, but then nowadays knowing Spanish is so valuable in careers that everyone wants Spanish back. I mean, it's quite ironic to see.
It's not that bad, you know, to look back and the mistakes that a parent makes. The thing about it is when your kid tells you, you live in the United States, you do not live in Mexico, so you have to speak the language, then you realize, well, they're right. But then when they grow older, they say, it's you folks. You should have made me speak Spanish. So, in a way that they're right.
So what languages do you prefer to speak now?
Both. Except for one thing, your brain gets used to the speaking in this language that you cannot, all of a sudden, you cannot change it from one thing to the next, So your brain is already taught how to react when somebody's speaking to you.
Do you feel comforted when you find, someone else in the United States that speaks Spanish and you're able to have a different conversation?
Yes.
Yeah, it's like
100%
instant relation.
Yes. And also that you can help that person that needs help to translate for them. It feels good.
So do you know what ethnicity means? The word
Yes.
ethnicity, it's like your culture. So how would you characterize your family's ethnicity? Like your now family with your children and husband?
I consider myself Hispanic. Okay. I consider my kids that, but if they rather not be called that, I'm fine with it. I'm not forcing them to feel different than what, just because I feel I'm Hispanic and I'm proud of it, because there was nothing in my life that made me ashamed of my culture. They don't know anything about my culture, so how can I make them accept something they don't know?
So I know obviously you got married so young, you started having children so young, so you weren't as confident in sharing your culture and language with your kids because you wanted to adapt to this new world you're in.
Right.
But if you could, do it all over again, how with the mindset you have now, would you want to integrate your kids into the culture, the language and everything?
Yes. But at the time I was very young. I did not want him to have problems at school because I did have problems. I mean, I like I said, at the time I didn't understand. Later on in life, I did. But that shouldn't have made my kids not learn their language.
So you prefer the label Hispanic over Latina or Chicana?
Oh, yes.
Like Mexican American. Would you identify as Mexican still or Mexican American?
Mexican. I am a United States citizen, but in my mind, in my head, I'm Mexican. I was born in Mexico. So I can adopt to another culture, but my culture is what I was born.
So what was that process like, becoming a United States citizen and coming to America?
Okay, well, coming to America, when your parents bring you, there's nothing you can do. Your parents brought you over here. So that was the reason. Now, one of the reasons that I got married so young is I had a stepfather and we didn't look at each other with, I didn't like him, he didn't like me. So that was one of the reasons. I was brought up with lots of love, and that's what I taught my kids to have with everybody. I cannot say that I am not so proud of them. I had 7 kids, 5 boys, 2 girls, and all of them are wonderful. I cannot pick one and say, no, this one is not, and that one is not. All of them are good.
Yeah, so 7 kids, how many, and you've had
18,
how many grandkids?
18 grandkids.
And great-grandkids?
9 great-grandkids, 1 on the way. So very proud.
Yeah.
I believe that's God's gift to my family, being a big family and being united as we are.
Yeah. So you like having a big family? Did you always picture yourself with a big family, or was it just one after the other?
No, let me tell you the reason I had a big family. I came from a family that the father and mother got divorced. I did not wanted that for my kids. I wanted them to feel secure, and then we were there to help them and to love them. Yeah. And that's the reason. I mean, my husband and myself, we knew each other 2 weeks. And everybody kept on saying, hey, they're not going to be together. You know, they're going to get divorced. I mean, 2 weeks, they don't know each other. And she's a baby. My husband was 22, I was 16. But that's what helped, I think, that he was older than me and he knew more about life than I did. So here we are 62 years afterwards.
Still as in love as the day you met.
Yeah, that's a miracle to me.
Yeah.
And like I said, you know, God has always been in our life. And that's one of the number one reason, you know.
All right. So, let's go back to early on when you came to America, different jobs that you and your husband had at the time, because I've heard, where did you move immediately when you came to the US? Were you in Texas, California?
Okay, we lived in El Campo, Texas for about a month, and then we moved to the Valley. My husband worked with trucks at taking people to work. I stay home as a mother. Not as a mother. I stay home as a wife. 3 months after we got married, we moved to California. And that's where I had 5 of my kids. And then we moved to 4 kids. And then we moved to Texas and we had 3 more.
So what was your work experience like, you know, within California?
Okay, in California, we worked in the fields and the canneries.
Do you remember what year this was or what time area this
was?
The
year was 1962. From 1962 to 1968, we were in California. We moved to Texas, and my husband worked with the air makers, airplane makers. At that time, so I didn't have to work. I had to stay home and take care of my kids, which I did. Then in 1978, that's when I decided to go to school, get my GED, my other things that I did, my, typing and all that. I got a job right away after I finished, got a job. Passed all my grades with an A+, which was very good because, I mean, you know, coming to a different world, you can say. And got a job right away, worked for 7 to 8 months. And then one of my kids got lost. And I told my boss, I said, I'm sorry. One of my kids got lost. And this is not, to me, this job is great, but it's not worth losing one of my kids. So I quit. And that was it.
So you said from 1962 to 68, you were in California. So this was also around the time of, you know, all the unionization. There was the farmers movement, the Cesar Chavez, and all those icons. So what were you thinking at this time, or like how informed were you about what was going on? Okay,
at that time they were passing through our town, El Campo, Texas. No, I'm sorry, not El Campo, Turlock, California. We lived there, and then Cesar Chavez was walking through our town, and we decided to go and walk with him. And one of my kids was Nicholas, and we had a lot of fun. 2 of the people that walked with them, we offered them our house for them to sleep, and we talked to the Cesar Chavez man. We believe in what he was doing was right. We walked with him from Turlock, California to Modesto. And then we had things to do. I had to go to work. My husband had to go to work, so we came back.
So at that time, did you know that that movement and that person would be as monumental and remembered as they are today?
No, because at that time, like a lot of these times, a lot of people, you know, they don't have recognitions for what they do. That's what I believe.
So at that time, you know, when you were in America, you were a young mother, a young worker. How did you think about the way these immigrants are being treated, or Mexican people are being treated in the United States?
Yes. They've been treated them unfairly. I believe, I mean, I don't like to say anything about anybody because they have their own reasons why they are like that. They're people. People make mistakes, and that's what I think. They're making mistakes because those people don't come over here to do damage. They come over here to work. You know, I wouldn't get into that situation because I'm a very peaceful person. And I never taught my kids to do that, you know?
To never judge anyone.
No.
So,
but they're not right on the way they treat him, especially those children that were put in jail, like little animals, worse than animals.
Yeah, so that's the recent political, environment we lived in with former President Trump. So what were your thoughts on everything, all the discussion at the border then and the treatment of immigrants?
They were not treating them right. They were treated worse. Like I said, United States is known to love their pets, to love their dogs. How about human beings? Human beings, they mistreat them, and they don't deserve that. America was built by immigrants from all over the world. These people are across the border, At one time, it was their land. So who's the intruder here?
Yeah, that's a big topic we, touch on in my classes. Borders are drawn politically, but I mean, there was Native people here before, and then the colonizers came. So
and pushed them.
Yeah, they pushed them away, and they drew these imaginary borders. So,
so the first people that were here in the United States were the what do you call it? The Native Indians. They were here before anybody. And I'm sorry to say Indian because there was a mistake they made when they came over here, thinking that Columbus was going to India. And that's why a lot of people, myself included, called those people Indians, which they were natives from this land. And who pushed them out? Whoever came from other countries.
So the Spanish, the English, French, everyone.
Well, that was in Mexico, the Spanish and the English and France and all that. But here in the United States, all of this land belong to those native people. And what happened? Who's the intruder? You understand?
Do you identify at all with any Native heritage? I know you've gotten DNA testing before, and you're part Native. So do you identify with that at all culturally, or are you just 100% Spanish, Mexican? Mexican?
Yeah. Mexico is not a kind of a color of people. Mexico is a country, just like the United States, it's America. Mexico is America too. I don't know if you know that, but anyway, I consider myself a person that was born in Mexico, came to the United States, lived here, had my kids, my family, and became a United States citizen. But that doesn't take away what you are.
Yeah. So you said, it doesn't affect you racially or anything. So do you identify as white then? Or not?
It doesn't really matter to me, because to me, I am what God made me.
Yeah.
The color he made me is his reason. He only knows the reason why.
So going back to that, to the farmers movement at the time, there was also a Black Power movement and civil rights. So what were you thinking of the time, being in big, cities?
Never thought anything about it because I have always been non-racial. I mean, I never say you're Black, you're white, you're whatever, To me, people are people, regardless. My kids are the same. My kids don't have a thing of saying, oh, don't get together with that people, they're Black, or everybody is the same.
Yeah. So you don't see color.
No,
so
I don't.
And then that goes in my other questions about recent events. Do you recall the Black Lives Matter movement recently?
Yes.
I think it was 2 years ago with the killing of George Floyd. So how did you react to all these protests going on about that?
I think in a way they have the right, because that was done in a way that the whole world seen it. So how can you hide something with your hand? How can you hide that? You know what happened. That man put his knee on top of his neck. And you know, if somebody's gonna do that to you, you know you cannot breathe. You're gonna die. So he killed them in front of everybody. There was no way of saying, no, that didn't happen. It did happen. So they had the right to fight for what they believe. And for the person that did it to be, to give justice to that person, because it didn't stop there. As we know, it happened again and again and again.
Yes, police brutality is very, still goes on every day.
Right. But not because that policeman did it, everybody, you're going to judge everybody. You understand? But you have to understand that if they don't put a stop to that kind of killing, it's going to keep on going.
So after, this killing of George Floyd, all the protesters around it, like, I don't remember, there was a lot of marches going on and some riots, destruction. What did you think about seeing that on the news?
Well, I don't believe that two wrongs makes right. I believe that they should have been stopped and to do whatever they thought it was right for them to do, but it wasn't right what they did.
Not going into violence
breaking into people's businesses and all that. That's not doing something better than what the policeman did.
So have you ever experienced any racism or discrimination, being Hispanic?
Yeah, I seen it. When we came to the United States, I worked in a restaurant. I was 15 years old. We cannot serve a Black person in the restaurant. It had to be in the kitchen. But what we did as workers, and feeling bad for that, we treated them with the best way we could to make them feel welcome. But that wasn't right. And even Hispanics. Thing that hurt me the most, the owner of the restaurant was Mexican, and he was doing this. But that was the law. They had to abide by the law.
Yeah. And do you remember what year this was? Or
it was 1959. 1959.
So have you personally ever received any discrimination for being Hispanic?
At that time, I was 15 years old. Used to go to the stores. I didn't know what to say. And I would see this person, owner of the store, being right next to me, like taking care of me because they thought I was going to steal something. That made me very uncomfortable. So I went home and I told my stepfather, what can I do when somebody gets close to you and tells you something you don't understand, and they're over there like just keeping right next to you, making sure that you don't take something? He said, just turn around and tell him I'm looking around. I couldn't wait for the next day to go to the store and tell the lady, I'm just looking around. My first words.
First English words. Most used.
It made me feel very uncomfortable, but she did it. She thought that I was going to steal something. She was right there next to me, just waiting for me to touch anything. That made me uncomfortable.
Do you know if your husband ever experienced anything, whether it be in the workplace or just?
He's the kind of man that if it happened, he wouldn't take it that way. That's the kind of man he is.
So what do you think should be done? I know we live in a very different world now, but what do you think should be done about, this racism that we see?
Discrimination? It has been for such a long time. It is not going to die if people believe that they're better than other people. It's not going to finish until something happens like this virus that is going around. They haven't changed their mind. I mean, just think about it. To me, in my thinking, at the same time, they're blaming China. Okay, I don't believe it was China. My belief was at the same time, all over the world, it happened. and our eyes are not open. We still believe it was somebody else that did it. We point fingers at the wrong people. And I believe it was done for us to open our eyes and to be better people, and we're not. And look at how many people died.
So you're saying COVID was supposed to be an eye-opening experience, take us away from all this everyday life.
Stupidity. All this stupidity that they're better than other people. Nobody's better. Everybody's made out of the same material. If you open a person and you open a black person, a white person, a Chinese, we all bleed the same, and it's red. And all those lives come from God. Nobody else,
So people just need to realize that we're all equal.
No, they realize it, but they cover themselves. Like the Bible says, they have eyes, but they don't see. It's true. The heart is the one that sees things differently. They close their heart. They close their eyes. So they won't be able to see. They think what they think, and nobody's going to change their mind. Not even death. And it's surrounding us all over the world.
Let's see, a lot of good things. Is there anything else you want to add, either regarding your upbringing, like your identity as a Hispanic woman? Is there anything else you want to touch on that?
Yeah, I was brought up with discipline, a lot of discipline. I think at the time I learned to be very, very heavy with my kids. I mean, they did something wrong. Nobody wanted to admit it. So all of them got the same punishment because they didn't want to tell on the other people, on the other person, They were brought up to do the right thing, never do the wrong thing. We were brought up that way. I mean, it says when you love a child and you spare the whip, you don't love the child because you're letting them get away with something that was wrong. And at the time, I don't care how small it was, you got punished, so you would know next time not to do it. You don't tell a child, if you do it again, I'm going to hit you, because that's the wrong thing to do. You say it once, they know they got you on the pocket.
And you've raised, I said, 7 amazing kids,
yes.
And nearly all your grandkids, great grandkids.
They're all on the same line,
Very successful, very happy people.
And very smart, knowing what's right and wrong. Now, if they decide to do what's wrong, it's not your fault. It's that they decided to go that way. But we're humans, that's one of the main things since Adam and Eve. The brother says, well, no, Adam told God, the woman you gave me, she did it. We blame somebody else instead of ourselves, and it has been since the beginning of time.
So your belief, like you said, discipline, raising children, do you think that stems from a religious background or being Hispanic, being from Mexico, where you learned that?
I think all parents want the best for the kids. I cannot say, I am saying of how I was brought up. I cannot say other people because I really don't know. If the kids don't turn good, maybe the parents didn't do their job good, or maybe it's because they had to work, both of them, and left them by themselves to tend for themselves, and that's wrong, 100%. A kid cannot feel unloved, because one of the things a human being needs is a lot of love from the parents, and to feel it and to grow up with it. And if you're by yourself, how can that gonna happen? Even a little animal needs love,
Yep. So obviously having a big family, growing up with a big family is the most important thing to you, to me as well, being Hispanic. But, you see other people. So in America, whether it be Black or white people, you would never blame, not well-behaved kids on, their ethnicity or race. It's always whether or not they just have
it's the parents, not really the race, not really. It's how they brought up their kids, but a lot of parents believe if I go to work, I'm going to give my kids what I didn't have and this and that. Those are just excuses because those kids need you more than anything. You know, how they going to learn if there's nobody to teach them? Yeah, they go to school. They teach them what they're supposed to be teaching them, not what being a parent is. A parent is not, when a parent comes to this world, it's not with a book telling you how to be. Now they have a lot of books, you know, but at my time, a lot of people don't believe on, oh, you have to read this book. This person did this book. How many kids does he have? Oh, no, he don't have no kids. How's he gonna know? You understand? Yeah. You have to grow up having a family and learning from that. Not writing a book that you think this is the way you should do your kids and then not having not even one kid of yourself. You know? Yeah. How can you learn?
Yeah. So one more on culture, on Hispanic Mexican culture. What are your favorite aspects of the culture? You know, like going from food, music, dress. Like, do you still identify strongly as being Mexican? You know, in all those aspects. I know food's obviously a very big part of your life. And
yes.
Identity.
Learning how to cook. I was 15 years old. I was taught in a restaurant 3-4 days to learn the kitchen, and then left by saying that I was a cook. Yeah. I had no credentials, but I was a cook. I learned how to do the different things that they were doing. So the main thing in my life and the best thing that I learned is to cook different foods. Yeah.
And so when you cook, do you feel connected with the culture? Because I know you mainly cook Mexican food. Does that make you feel connected with the culture?
Yes.
Or is it just your favorite food?
No, it's things that you learn with time. I cannot say it's from Mexico, but I love in Mexico, in every corner, if not every corner, most every corner, they have food. And we used to go there and buy food because my mother worked. So she could have enough money for a home and to keep us alive, you know? So you learn, the first thing you learn is that food. Yeah.
Well, thank you for your time and opportunity. Any last things about anything we covered here? Or?
Just give lots of love to your kids. The first thing that they learn, the little sponges, they learn from you. Whatever they see, whatever they do. I mean, up to now, some of my kids, which they're not kids anymore, they're old people now. They keep on saying, you didn't love us. But now they have their own kids. And you know what? They say, I know why you were the way you were. See, a policeman didn't come to my door knocking because they knew my kids were well behaved and they respected people. So you teach them the best you can. But most of all, give them lots of love because it works.
Well, thank you again.
You're welcome.
Thank you for everything.
You're welcome.
Let's